Hey everybody, I'm back again. We're going to have a couple of videos for today. And the first one that, that I made, you can watch them however you want, but is on basic MLA format. So that one, make sure you watch that. Keep that one, for reference. Anytime you're not sure on how you should be formatting your essays or what MLA looks like, you got it right there step by step. So make sure you watch that one in its entirety and pay close attention to it. And as I said, keep it as a reference. I'll also be posting just a general step-by-step guide on D2L that'll be there for quick reference too. But it won't. I explain the steps in the text, but it's a little bit easier if you're like me, where you'd rather watch somebody do something than read about how to do it step by step. I'd rather watch somebody do the steps while they're explaining it than read the steps without any, sort of illustrations or anything. So make sure you watch that one. But this session should be probably a little bit shorter. We are now getting into the textbook at this point in the semester, and I will be. I'm not doing it now. Don't freak out. But soon I will be assigning your first actual essay. You've already been assigned the introductory essay, which I've received from some of you, but again, it's technically not due yet as I'm recording this. But make sure you get the introductory essays to me. And again, you can either attach those directly through D2L, or you can email them to me, as I explained last time. And some have done both, which is fine. If you want to put it on D2L and send it to me email, that's fine. You're just being extra cautious. As I said, that's probably how I would have done it. So with the textbook, as I said, when we're going over the syllabus, it does not matter if you have the actual book or the e-text. Either one is fine. The only thing that matters is that you have the 8th edition. That way the page numbers and the content is going to match up, because the content is different from the 7th to the 8th edition. So I will be assigning your first reading for next time, and it's going to be Chapter 1, Understanding the Rhetorical Situation. I want you guys to go through that. It's a short chapter. There's this really long kind of cartoon comic thing in there that's an example. You can read through that if you want, but I want you to make sure to go through the main components, particularly the rhetorical situation. And that's basically is the rhetorical situation is just the situation that is causing you to write, whether you want to or not. In this case, it's because you're being assigned something to write. But you have to take into consideration certain things, like who is your audience, who is your, and when I say audience, I want you to remember this: it's your intended audience. It's not, once something's out there, anybody can read it. I mean, anyone who can read, I should say, can read it. But if you think about it, if you go to a bookstore, or which none of us really do now, but if you look on Amazon, people who go to the romance novel section generally are people who want to read romance novels. So authors who write romance novels, their intended audience is people who want to read romance novels. It's not, I mean, it's not rocket science, but audience is going to be very important, because that's one of the biggest factors in rhetorical situation. And just to give an example, let's say an article about medicine. Let's say some new cancer treatment. Let's say there's an article written about this new revolutionary cancer treatment. If you look at an article about that treatment and the Journal of the American Medical Association, the JAMA, J-A-M-A. That's a professional journal that is written by doctors for doctors. So the language in that article is going to be very technical. It's going to have a lot of jargon. It's going to have um, a very technical medical terminology. It's going to speak about procedures that should be known to people in that field, particularly oncologists, which are, doctors that specialize in cancer. So there's not going to be a lot of lay speak. It's not going to be written for the layperson. It's going to gloss over things that every cancer doctor or every medical doctor should know. They say they'll name certain things that are familiar with that particular audience, but someone like me who's not a medical doctor and not specifically an oncologist, I'm not going to know what most of that stuff means. I'm not the intended audience. That article is written for people who are going to be utilizing that breakthrough, that treatment, and are going to be familiar on an expert level. I'm a high expert, not just, yeah, I know a lot about that stuff. No, this is written for trained professionals in that specific field. So the audience, there's going to be a huge gap between someone like me reading that article and a medical doctor, specifically a cancer doctor. Our audience is general purposes, okay? So we think of each other. I'm your audience, fellow students, whom obviously we're not around each other, but we're each other's audience. So we're going to say that the audience is just a general audience of relatively well-informed adults. That's it, okay? So keep that in mind. So if you are using specific terms that are for a very niche audience, you might want to think about explaining that a little bit more. But if you're just talking about something that most adults should know about, you don't have to go into a lot of detail about explaining the background and all that stuff. So just keep audience in mind. Who am I writing this for? Genre is going to be important. Genre simply just means the type of essay, and I've already said previously that your first essay is going to be personal experience. You're telling us a story about yourself and an experience that you have gone through, and there has to be some sort of a point to it. Your thesis should be, this, through this experience, this is what I learned, this is something like that. There has to be some kind of a purpose to it. Which is also an important part of the rhetorical situation. Why am I writing this? What am I expecting the reader to get from this? That's your purpose. And I said last time, because I have to, ha ha ha. But keep all this in mind. Sometimes there's writing that's for a specific occasion. If you are for a wedding or something, let's say, like, if you were one of the bridesmaids or the groom or something, you might have to write a toast. Well, depending on who's getting married and what type of audience is going to be there, that's going to dictate kind of the toast that you give. If it's just in my opinion, my personal experience, I had to give a toast I've had to give toasts at a couple of weddings, and one was my best friend. So, and it was kind of, off the cuff. It was nothing formal. It wasn't overly sappy. Just tried to embarrass him a little bit, tell some stupid stories about us being stupid and the typical stuff, all the stupid things that he did before they got married, and now he's got to calm down. It's kind of, lighthearted. But then if it's something like a eulogy at a funeral, that might be a little bit not as I mean, again, it depends on whose funeral it is and who the audience is, but generally, funerals are going to be, a eulogy at a funeral is going to be a little bit more somber, have a little bit more of a serious undertone or overtone to it. So occasion is important too. You want to make sure that the context is clear. If you're writing from a particular social or cultural context, you want to make sure that the audience is aware of that. That's the viewpoint or the context that you're writing it from. Uh, Now, viewpoint's going to be is multiple. That's multifaceted. In a technical sense, from the technical writing sense, your first essay is going to be from a first-person viewpoint. That means that you're going to use I, me, and mine, because you are the narrator and you're telling the story. You're narrating the story to the audience, to the reader. So that's about it. And your purpose, why. That's purpose is very, very important. What is my goal? Why am I telling this story? What do I want? Now, see, this doesn't mean that's going to happen, but you want to say to yourself, what do I want my audience to get out of this? Why am I telling this story? Is it a cautionary tale? Here's what I did, and here are the bad things that happened because I did it. If you don't want to go through what I went through, don't do this stupid thing. Then that could be kind of a lesson learned type personal experience. Or, hey, I was afraid of the ocean, and until I went on a cruise, and then I went on this cruise to wherever, and it turned out to be one of the best experiences in my life. Or it could be the opposite. I've always wanted to go on a cruise, and then I finally went on one and found out it was my worst nightmare. So all of that stuff is going to be little individual pieces that are going to eventually form, hopefully, eventually form into an entire piece. So your essays, regardless of what type of essay you're writing, what genre, um, should have a beginning, a middle, and an end. And for the purposes of this class, we want to have, an introductory paragraph. That's going to be your first paragraph where you give a little background. Not too much detail. That's what the middle parts are for. But you want to give some background, establish the setting, whatever the setting for the essay is, the purpose, and your thesis statement. And your thesis statement is going to be the main idea of the entire essay. This is my point. This is why I'm doing this, and this is what I expect you, the reader, to get out of it. That's your thesis. Then you're going to have your body paragraphs, and the body paragraphs are where that's where you're going to have all the specific details, all the specific examples. There can be, for instance, in the personal experience essay, you can have dialogue, where you're using quotes where and I said, quote, hey, don't go in there, exclamation point, whatever. So that's what you're gonna be. That's what the body paragraphs are for. That's the specifics, and then each body paragraph is going to have a topic sentence, which is generally the first sentence of that body paragraph. And the topic sentence is going to be the main idea of that paragraph. Remember, your thesis is the main idea of the entire essay. The topic sentence is going to be the main idea of that individual paragraph. You want to try to transition, from paragraph to paragraph. You don't want to think of each paragraph as its own little world that exists on it. It should all flow. There should be a flow from paragraph to paragraph, and you want to transition. And I'll probably for the next video I'll give some specific examples of ways that you can transition, transitional phrases, transitional words, things like that. Right now I'm just giving kind of an overview of the basic essay format. So what you don't want is for each one of your body paragraphs to look like an individual, like its own piece. The way I look at it is that an essay should be like a series of doors and rooms. So your introduction is the background, and it establishes what's to follow. Your thesis is the main specific idea. This is what this essay is going to focus on. And then the transition should be like a door. I open that door and I walk into the next paragraph, which is the next. It shouldn't be like I'm slamming a door shut and going to a different house every time I open a new paragraph. It should all be the same building and the doors are open. You just walk from one room to the next without any problems. That's good transitioning. Um, and once you've developed and supported that body paragraph with specific examples and evidence, if you will, you move on to the next point, and that will have its own topic sentence in the next one. And when you get to your conclusion, you're going to basically summarize what you're going to give us a wrap up. You know, think about it like at the end of certain uh, TV shows or something, where they'll give you a wrap up of what just happened, and that's it. And then when you get to the very end of the essay, you want to restate your thesis, and that's the essay's done at that point. And then you just wrap it up. So that's what I want you to get out of chapter 1. Like I said, you can read the little cartoon and stuff if you want, but I also want you guys to read chapter 2. Chapter 2 is specifically about remembering an event, and this is going to be the personal experience essay. So go through those chapters, make sure you have them read by, for the Tuesday, Thursday class, make sure you have it read by Thursday. Monday, Wednesday, Friday, make sure you have it read by Wednesday. And then I'll be going over all this in detail in the next video. So again, any questions, call me, text me, email me, and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. So take care, and I'll see you next time.